It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Thursday, it's a very special Thursday tonight on Red Eye Radio. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing good. We're coming up with, there's new terms coming out every day. I saw this in the Federalist about Walz. Folksy socialists. So we came up with the term the other day, compassionate racism.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a racist, and I believe that you are inferior to me, but
right.
And so I will not argue with you if you are BIPOC. That's Black, Indigenous, People of Color. That's a liberal term that's out there that they use on a consistent basis. You are inferior, so I will not argue with you, but I'm doing that because I care about you. I know that I have privilege, which means I am superior to you, and so I will not argue with you because I don't respect you at all, and I don't believe you have the capability of defending any of your points. We call that here compassionate racism.
From the bottom of my heart, don't look me directly in the eye. I will call the cops.
Well, the whole, the folksy socialist thing, it's like the how they're trying to portray Walz, and it's not working, by the way,
No.
but as this, well, he wears jeans and he wears a hat, and I go back to think of the first time I met my buddy Jack Cummings from Buffalo. Great guy, great rock photographer. I mean, just in college, one of my most dear friends. And when I first met him, I remember walking up to the cafeteria table, and, this is my engineering class, and there's this guy who looks like a hippie bum.
Mm-hmm.
And someone says, "Hey, Jack, what's going on?" This is the first time I remember this guy. And it's like, this is why you don't look at first impressions ever to judge anybody. And there he is, and they go, "Jack, what's up?" He goes, and he's got his, long hair, and he says, "Well, I got my work shirt on, my work pants on, my work jacket on, my work belt on, my work boots on, my work gloves are right here with me, my work hat on. I'm heading to the welfare office." And I'll always remember that. And I didn't know, back then, we were so intense, and really we were in our studies and the things we were going to do, where politics wasn't a huge thing. I voted at that time, and I was more conservative, but I had not articulated in my mind, you understand what I'm talking about, all the positions that we now hold. I always held these positions. I just didn't articulate it in my own mind. Well, I remember when I got my first talk radio show in Buffalo, and I was doing a live remote broadcast from, I don't even know what it was, a mattress store, okay? Because you always do mattress stores. And I see him. I hadn't seen him in a few years. He comes walking up. I'm like, oh, boy, I assumed he was a liberal.
Yeah.
Man, and he walks up, he goes, "I know. My image has always been that I probably have been a liberal," but he looked at me, he goes, "I'm more conservative than you." And at that point, I learned, well, you don't judge people ever by how they dress. It means nothing. And it's like with Walz, it's like, well, he wears a ball cap, and he's a normal kind of guy, because normal kind of guys that wear a ball cap and a shirt, except for the occasional, Chris Farley antics that he had a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's a normal guy that believes that pornography and sexually explicit material should be given to 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. But he's normal because of the ball cap.
Yeah.
The ball cap and the jeans and the work kind of shirt. And then I saw yesterday, look, this guy's normal. He has family photos.
Yeah.
With family and children around him.
Oh.
You mean the children that he wishes to expose to sexually explicit materials at 5, 6, and 7 years old?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so when I saw the Federalist, folksy socialist, I'm like, well, actually, I'll say folksy pervert.
You are pushing something that is absolutely demented, promoting it, and these are the things we look at when you look at the left. Kamala Harris getting heckled by pro-Hamas demonstrators in Michigan, and I don't know how they're going to win that, and I know we're going to get into it later. The claim of stolen valor when it comes to Walz and all of these things you're going to have to answer for, because the liberal media yesterday was on that. Actually, even CNN was on it. And they were doing, this is the thing, they do the fact checking. This is something we've said about whoever it is running on the right. Throw out the facts over and over again. Throw out the facts over and over again. Now, they're going to lie. They're going to edit. They're going to do some things. Charlottesville, that lie's still going. However, you throw out facts over and over again, especially about your opponent, and eventually somebody in the liberal media is going to get around to fact-checking. And we saw that happen. And then I saw in the Wall Street Journal the very two different financial situations between Tim Walz and J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, a multimillionaire, and Tim Walz apparently has a net worth of like $100,000 or something. It's very low. And he's relying on his pensions. And his wife is a educator, and I guess they're relying on both of their pensions. They really don't have anything. They don't even own a home. And I thought to myself, I don't know the attempt of the Wall Street Journal. I don't know what the goal. It could be just, okay, here's your two different situations. Somebody, in fact, they used one of the experts that analyzed presidential, not vice presidential, but presidential candidates and their wealth over the years. And certainly Walz is one of those that's on the very low end, if not the lowest end. Remember in 2008, Biden, he's one of the poorest members on Capitol Hill and blah, blah, blah. He doesn't have a lot. Yeah, well, we found out that was either about to change or it already changed.
Well, I'll tell you, the Wall Street Journal article, I don't know why they wrote it. Mm-hmm. What came to my mind when you said that, I went, it may be because of Walz's attack on J.D. Vance, saying that he went to Yale, but then he put out a movie that, he went to Yale and put out a movie that insulted, his hometown, the culture of what he grew up in. Yeah. And I think that was at that. And then he had, Vance said, I was there. Yeah, had a lot of trouble. Yep. I came from nothing in that lifestyle
and rose to the top.
And I rose, and I've got no apologies for my education at all. So that might be because that's when it becomes. It's like the whole thing with normal. Normally, you and I would not be talking about who's normal and who's weird, because how do you actually define that? Well, normal would be what most people believe.
Right.
Now, and so most people don't believe that, for example, that 5 and 6, 7-year-olds should be exposed to sexually explicit material that adults even call too crude and pornographic to read at school board meetings, as we brought up, before. And so weird is where you have, weird is something that is, definitely unique and that the masses don't embrace. Well, that's why when Walz started this whole, weird accusation about J.D. Vance, then it's okay to strike back. And I know it's a semantic argument, but the fact is Vance and Trump can win that argument every single time because where they stand, because it takes you right back to the issues again. It's an opportunity to go right back, to the issues of, okay, you want to talk about this? We think that your belief on this issue is insane. We believe that you supporting Hamas, that's not normal. That's weird. And what I liked is when it started coming out, it's weird, but it's also harmful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I may like a sport that somebody else doesn't like, and somebody might say, that's weird that you're obsessed with golf.
Right.
And it's, but there's no harm to that.
Right.
There's no harm that I like golfing except for the worms. because I'm hitting the ground and killing the worms.
Right.
And so it's all open at that point. You use that, especially when you're attacked that way, but you always take it back to the issues. You can take all these things right back to the issues and say, see, there's the jealousy and envy that comes from somebody, they don't like the success that I have had, and that's what liberals and that's what Democrats think. They're jealous, and he's jealous and envious of my success. And then you continue it on an argument that he can't win. It's like this.
And it also, sets the mindset of, if somebody is goal-oriented, you don't always rise to the point of billionaire or multimillionaire like J.D. Vance, billionaire like Donald Trump. But I thought to myself, here's a guy who's governor of a state, and he doesn't have much. In fact, even their whole life insurance policy wasn't much, as stated by the Wall Street Journal. And I thought to myself, relying on pensions, relying on, other things, and he earned the pension if he served the time in whatever it is. There was a pension from Congress, and I don't know what would come from the state. I'd have to go back and look at the article. But very little, basically, that he set aside. Some college savings that amounted to somewhere between $1,000 and $15,000 for his kids or grandkids. I don't know which. But I thought to myself, that's kind of the mindset. That's kind of the mindset that you preach when you're on the left. You rely on other things. You don't work a little bit harder to go after something. Accomplishment as governor, I think his pension is, or I think his pay is $149,000 now, and that's up, way up. He got a big raise recently. And I just thought to myself, it's not, there are many people out there in that same financial situation for whatever reasons. But it also reeks of the socialist mindset of, I'm not going to. And then remember Bernie, for years, he would rail against the millionaires and billionaires until he became a millionaire. Then he quit saying millionaires, and now he just says billionaires. And, I don't know if that will happen if Tim Walz rises in his financial situation, but it reeks of the same mindset. And I'm just waiting to hear we have too many choices when it comes to deodorant from Tim Walz.
Yeah. To me, when he said it was, to me, especially going after J.D. Vance, it's typical liberal class warfare.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all it is.
Driven by jealousy and envy.
And that if you make it and because you want a weird thought pattern because they brought it up.
Right.
So we're just responding. A normal thought pattern versus a weird thought pattern.
Right.
A normal thought pattern would be, wow, from that movie that we saw with J.D. Vance, he had a very, very tough life and probably angry about some of the things that happened in his life, but he rose to a great success. What a great story. Mm-hmm. That's viewed as a negative to a liberal.
Yeah.
No,
right.
You need to embrace the bad things that happen in your life and not become a success.
Right.
You need to stay a victim.
Right.
You can't rise to success. If you rise to success, then you've betrayed. It's sort of like liberals on, for example, when it would come out when young people would say, "Nope, I would rather be on welfare than work at McDonald's."
Right.
I'd rather be at welfare. I'd rather be a drug dealer than do this.
Right.
And it's almost as if you get a real job and become part of the society and a system, you are evil for doing that. Mm-hmm. Think about it. For making a legitimate living.
Right.
And I think that's part of what you and I clamped down when we started working together. People that would call the show, because you and I have done everything. My first job was cleaning toilets. Mm-hmm. My opinion is whatever you do, if you're making an honest living, I don't care whether you're making minimum wage or whether you're making $1 billion, if you're doing it with integrity and honesty and you're doing your job every day, God bless you. Mm-hmm. You're doing the right thing. You should be complimented for doing the right thing. But in a lot of liberalism, doing that is a negative.
Right.
And it started out with, I'm not going to work for the man.
Right. Right.
Like working for the man is somehow, and think about this. No, I'm doing, because the system is so screwed up, it's forced me to be a criminal.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Right.
And so, again, that's why I think it's if the Wall Street Journal did that, that's fine. That's fine because of the attack he had on J.D. Vance.
Well, and it is exactly right out of that playbook. That jealousy and envy that drives it. That emotion. They want you, if you're in that same financial situation, to be jealous of a J.D. Vance or Donald Trump.
Oh, and I didn't finish my thought. Sorry. When people used to call the show and say, well, I remember the one guy specifically, I'm just a janitor.
Yeah.
And we said, don't ever do that.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't mean that's where you are at this point in your life. It's an honest living. Your thought matters as much as anybody else.
Right. Right. Of course.
And so we got a few saying, well, look, I'm just a truck driver, and that would get us angry. Don't do that. They want you to believe that all the political, economic concepts that exist out there, you can't understand.
Right.
And they do, so they will lead you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever do that, ever.
Yeah.
I don't care whether you're in college, well, I'm just a student, or don't ever say that.
World experience is much greater than any sheepskin. Period.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree. College is so many of the college courses out there are way overhyped.
Yep.
As this indicator that you are somehow have an elite brain.
Right. Right.
Couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
866-98 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Grease, for example, is made of oil, thickener, and additives. It provides rust protection by preventing water spray-off and wash-off on equipment like the universal joint, fifth wheel, and clutch throwout bearings. It also helps protect major greasing points like tie rod ends, spring pin bushings, kingpin, and the chassis. Today's synthetic oils means more miles between engine oil changes, but greasing intervals aren't growing at the same pace. Your fifth wheel, for example, needs to be greased every 15,000 miles or monthly.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. So from the Trump campaign, they did address identity politics in the right way, and we'll get to that coming up. I posted it yesterday, and thanks to the number of people that said, they must be listening to you.
They are.
Because when I heard it, I went, okay. And it was J.D. Vance yesterday hitting identity politics. I'll tell you one thing, though. The one thing that I have seen from some of the most loyal Trump supporters, these are friends and acquaintances of mine that have been for Trump since the very beginning, and they look at it. They look at J.D. Vance. They look at the commercials. They go, the weak spot in this campaign, it's not the commercials, is not J.D. Vance. It's actually Trump. Now, I told you, he's been quiet for 48 hours.
Yeah.
He hasn't been out there saying anything.
Right.
And he complimented Vance yesterday. So the campaign knows and Trump knows what they have to do to win and how to do it.
Yeah.
Will he?
Bringing on the chaos. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. Red Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. Now, one of the things, if you've listened to the show, and obviously by the response that I got to posting this video yesterday, our listeners have been listening. They go, "Oh yeah, wow!" And this all came about because of Trump. Was it last week? Doing the interview with the black journalist, saying no. We understand that, and there are some people that disagreed with us and said no. Trump needs to bring up the fact that they use identity, whenever they wish, and it's like no, that's not the point because we know that. Mm-hmm. The point is to close the door on the whole identity politics thing and make it a Democrat problem. Not that there's a debate. There's no debate anymore. There's no debate, at least in my mind, that the party of racism through identity politics, and now you see the anti-Semitism, is the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. And so when they bring it up and say, when they said, you criticize black reporters or whatever, it's like, well, I didn't criticize them because I'm racist. You're the people that bring up skin color. I disagree with people because they're wrong on the issues. Mm-hmm. And then you can bring up a couple of issues.
Right.
For example, this one person you bring up believes that 5-year-olds should be able to read sexually explicit content. That's got nothing to do with their skin color. That has to do with their perverted mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We care about your character and we care about the substance of your argument and whether you know what the hell you're talking about, irrespective of your skin color or nationality.
Right.
And we said that's what, that's how you handle identity politics. We don't judge by color. You do. We don't. You need to end this as an argument. We already know. And this is where I disagreed with one listener who wrote to me. I said, no, where you've got it wrong is you're saying that Trump should play the game, that, she claimed she was Indian. Then she claimed you're not going to win that one because as what happened in that, Democrats would come out. No, she's always said she's biracial. See, we've got 2 audio cuts here.
Yeah.
Well, we got audio cuts here. And the argument continues.
Right.
I'm not saying that Trump wasn't right because they do use identity. It's the debate point. That's been debated already. What hasn't been debated is identity politics is racism, and identity politics, judging people by groups and not individual, is what led the Democratic Party from their bigoted racist identity politics right to the racism of anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to end the argument.
Right.
Now, J.D. Vance, let's hear what he had to say yesterday. Okay, here we go.
Sir.
Jared Hake from NBC News. You have repeatedly suggested the only reason Kamala Harris didn't pick Josh Shapiro to be her running mate is because of his Jewish faith. Do you have any evidence to support that assertion that a person who's married to a Jewish man is somehow anti-Semitic or bowing to anti-Semites?
Well, I reject the premise of the question. I did not say that was the only reason that Kamala Harris didn't choose Josh Shapiro. So you should, take a little less DNC talking points when you ask your questions and ask a real question. I have suggested that Kamala Harris was motivated, or at least her party was motivated by anti-Semitism. And the evidence that I offer for that is what dozens of Democratic activists said in the run-up to her selecting her nominee. There were multiple grassroots activists, multiple media personalities, multiple people with influence in the Democrat Party who suggested that she should not choose Josh Shapiro because of his ethnic background. And look, I don't care what your ethnic background is. I know Donald Trump doesn't care what your ethnic background is. I do not want to live in a country where we're choosing who the next VP is based on skin color or ethnic heritage. Choose based on merit. And the fact that so many prominent leaders in the far left felt empowered to talk about Shapiro's ethnic heritage is a disgrace. And I think it's a scandal for the Democrat Party. Yes, I do.
Boom.
Boom.
Zero fat there.
Yep. Well, you said it the other day. Every single appearance should be as strong as their commercials that they have out right now.
They spend a lot of time editing those commercials, putting everything together, putting the right elements in them in order to make and then they will do focus groups on these ads or the content of the ads. And they know what people are concerned about. And they build their ads accordingly, and they trim it down to make sure that that message is clear and concise. And there's zero reason that you can't do that on the campaign trail every single day between now and November 5th. Just make it happen. Just do it. The frustrating part, the most frustrating part, is number one, they're right on the issues.
Yeah.
Number two, I know that Donald Trump probably, with very few exceptions, is more capable or just as capable as anybody in making those statements and hitting home every single time in terms of the content of those statements, the points made, and going boom, boom, boom. There's nobody who commands a room like Donald Trump. You can say that for sure. Nobody owns the room like Donald Trump. Don't squander that. Nobody, I believe in building a consensus. I do think it was different in 2016, between 2016 and 2020. I think a lot of Republicans, especially establishment Republicans, were on the sidelines for far too long, certainly in his first 2 years of his first term. And that's disappointing. But the reason that they were on the sidelines is because they didn't know if they were going to be next. And you can't do that. Say what you will, but the political game is about building allies, not making enemies. Building a consensus is about taking everyone and making them your ally, not the opposite. And so that's our frustration when we see that happen. And we've seen it. I've seen it multiple times. Donald Trump has all the skills and all the elements necessary to do this in modern times more than any president that I know. George W. Bush didn't have that. Reagan had it. Reagan, I would say, back in the day, though, if you're going to, critique it, he came off as robotic, but the content was spot on. There are times when Reagan was looking into the camera and it was like, all right, but you knew that he believed it if you knew Reagan. You knew that those were his words, even if somebody else wrote that speech. That was his sentiment, and there's no doubt. With Donald Trump, he comes off as, when he's on the campaign trail, you saw him praying with the young girl at the fast food counter the other day. Mm-hmm. She asked him if she could pray. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was just an awesome moment. But it's been said for years, for decades, long before he ran, that he made the connection with the people in the hard hats much better than he did with the ones in the boardroom, and that's just the guy he is. And keep in mind, this is important, the liberals loved him. They loved him. They adored him. He didn't get up to the top of the viewing on NBC with The Apprentice by accident. That was adoration that came from a lot of people until he decided to run as a Republican.
Well, when you saw J.D. Vance there and how he said that and other things that he said yesterday, I mean, going over to talk to reporters near the vice president's plane.
Right.
I mean, that was great stuff. I figured I'd come over and talk to you because she won't.
That was, what kind of move that was? And we saw it back in the day. That was an Andrew Breitbart move.
Yes. Yeah. But what it did is it forces the media to cover it.
Yeah.
Because that's just too juicy.
Exactly. Oh, that's gold. But, I mean, that was a, as the kids would say, that was a gangsta moment. I mean, just want to, again, right out of the Andrew Breitbart playbook.
You know, I've been talking about that there needs to be a concerted effort, and it's not, the full thing isn't going to happen, even if they decided to do it by November, because there are other issues. But when we talk about identity politics and the racism of the Democratic Party that you see now, and, you know, as anti-Semitism, they simply took identity politics and said, "Oh, let's hate Jews now. Let's judge them as a group, and Israel is all bad."
Right.
And to the point of we're more pro-Hamas. Well, that's an insane opinion to hold, but you can still fight that. That, I think that can't be dominant of your campaign. It's just the fact that they haven't used it effectively. And I've said this a number of times. It's not just Trump's fault or Trump's campaign fault. The Republicans haven't used this, where they could have used this for the last 30 years. And it's just to the point now where the Democrats are so blatantly racist that you can't ignore it. That's the point. Right. You still got to bring up, I mean, it's the 5 or 6 things that we've talked about, those issues. They're really about it. But you can throw this in, as Vance did yesterday, because you're going to get questions on it. The media is still, the leftist media is still under the opinion that they can hit the Republicans and say, basically, you're racist and you're the bigots. Well, but they're going to do that just like the normal and weird. You throw it right back in their face because everybody knows identity politics and the racism right now in the political parties and the anti-Semitism is a Democrat problem.
Yep.
So use it. But I was Victor David Hanson wrote this column. I just want to read a couple of things. This week, Walz introduced himself to the nation as a VP candidate by smearing J.D. Vance with the brazen couch lie. And then while foolishly beaming, he doubled down on his crude slur. See what I did there? So he even outdid Harris, who had recently called Trump a predator just days before it was disclosed that her married husband earlier had once impregnated his own children's young nanny and tutor and had never disclosed what followed from that. Both will either ignore or lie about their joint opposition to fracking and pipelines, their disgraceful pro-Black Lives Matter Antifa advocacy during the lethal and destructive 2020 looting and rioting, their support for open borders and illegal immigration, their woke pandering, and their generic left-wing promotion of the usual high taxes, big government, poor services, and who cares if they flee my state arrogance. The Harris-Walz ticket will also collapse if the prior Biden-Harris appeasement of Iran, distancing from Israel, weakening of the military, the loss of deterrence in the next 90 days leads to theater-wide wars on the Ukrainian borderlands or in the Middle East, and or to a recession due to inflation, high interest, stagnant wages, and anemic citizen employment and unsustainable national debt service. In sum, Trump is very much even in the race. He was given a rare gift by the shunning of Josh Shapiro as Harris's running mate. That left-wing blunder could energize a Trump campaign if, again, he sticks to warning the country of who these two are, what they have done, how they are hiding their real agendas, what they will do if elected, and how they differ from his own presidential record and future agenda. Nothing else matters. And that means Trump should ignore the now inert and evaporating Biden. We've said this. Refrain from attacking any Republican. Stop all the recriminations about 2020. Avoid race and DEI ambushes, and prep hard and in detail for as many debates as he can obtain. Trump should say, hey, I'll do one of your debates, you do one of mine.
Yep.
Victor David Hanson saying she can't do it. So challenge is, okay, you do one and I'll do one.
Right.
Rarely have the Democrats so foolishly gone this hard left. When they did in 72, 80, and 88, Republicans used to know how to use those gifts, expose them, win landslides, despite media and institutional bias, which I would say was greater back then.
Yeah.
Than it is right now.
Right.
And so there it is right there. And Trump, I'm telling you, I have had more Trump supporters say Trump's not going to win. And the evidence they use is because he can't stay on topic and he's attacked Brian Kemp in Georgia. And these aren't Georgia Republicans. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And I want to say this. When I've heard from, friends of mine and acquaintances that look, and this is based on J.D. Vance yesterday and what he said about, identity politics and how to handle it. Mm-hmm. They don't have confidence that Trump will say the right thing. They believe that Trump is his worst enemy, that they look at the commercials. They've seen the commercials. The commercials are right on. J.D. Vance knows it. Trump knows what they need to do because they're doing it. He just can't do it himself. Right. I believe he can.
Oh, I think he can.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hello. Thank you for being here. Yeah, so that was, I got that yesterday from a couple of listeners and like three of my friends out there that total loyal Trump supporters, always have been. Understand his weaknesses, but this time they just said when he went after Brian Kemp politically, they just said that made no sense. They said, is he trying to lose? Why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense that he would go off on that. You and I talked about, the convention speech, which was okay, but it was way too long. Way too long.
Yeah.
He needs to, as we have said before, it needs to be a 20-minute speech. And I don't know. I asked you this question. The president's been the former president has been very quiet the last 48 hours. Vance has been all over the place and just killing it.
Yeah. It was promoted that he was going to be doing the same stops as Kamala Harris and Walz. And the fact that he's doing that, and maybe that's why Trump has been, quiet for a couple of days. He's letting J.D. Vance do that in those states so that J.D. Vance gets all the attention and gets all the media. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but that would be a good reason.
Well, is he hunkering down with his campaign people saying, here's what we need to do? Because he needs to stop ad-libbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got to stop ad-libbing. It's killing him. I guarantee the Brian Kemp attacks were not
scripted. No,
scripted in the speech.
No, I in fact I would say it's there's a pretty decent chance, if not likely, that those at the top of his campaign were cringing in that moment, going, "We don't know how we're going to answer to this."
Yeah, and one of the things that I got from, they said, we don't understand the guy anymore. If he doesn't get this, I didn't say this. This came from some friends of mine. He may end up in jail if he doesn't get elected. He doesn't seem to be as concerned about winning this as we are. And they said, J.D. Vance, the last couple of days, once the initial stuff that the media had on him. And think about this. Think about how he was vetted, J.D. Vance, and it was nothing compared to all the stuff coming out about Walz in just 24 hours.
Right.
I mean, Walz, just on everything is getting blasted. J.D. Vance, it's done. Trump, he's already been vetted.
Yeah.
It's time now for you to vet them. And as Victor David Hanson, said, stop it. I want to read it one more time because it was like, in some, Trump is very much even in the race. He was given a rare gift by the shunning of Josh Shapiro. The left-wing blunder could energize a Trump campaign. If he sticks to warning the country of who these two are, what they have done, how they are hiding, their real agendas, what they will do if elected, and how they differ from his own presidential record and future agenda. Nothing else matters. And that means Trump should ignore the now inert and evaporating Biden. We said that from day one.
Yeah, right.
Biden doesn't matter anymore. Hunter Biden doesn't matter anymore. It's done.
Yeah.
Refrain from attacking any Republican. Stop all recriminations about 2020. Avoid race and DEI ambushes. And prep hard and in detail for as many debates as he can. Trump should appear flexible and above the fray by compromising with Harris on the debates. One debate now by her rules on ABC and by his rules on Fox before early voting begins. Rarely have Democrats so foolishly gone hard left. When they did in 72, 80, and 88, Republicans used to know how to use those gifts, expose them, win landslides, despite media and institutional bias. And they can do it again, but only if they are united and disciplined as their predecessors once were. Now, I believe Trump can do it. It doesn't take, okay, fine, I'm going to read what's on the teleprompter. Now, I want to add this stuff in the teleprompter. Are we all in agreement with this? But he needs to make it concise. When you said it the other day, when you said it, and then we got into something else, and I wanted to bring it back, and we did yesterday. But when you said the other day, every Trump speech should be just like the commercials.
Yeah, when you look at the impact of a commercial, and we're seeing it already, the ads, and we've seen it before, any great ad is going to get shared. You're going to get a lot of free mileage out of that. It's going to be shared on social media by your base, by anybody it connects with. You've got a great chance of that being shared millions of times. And so the reason, when it makes that connection, it isn't by accident. There's a formula to doing that. And what they have going for them, the Trump campaign, is they win on the issues, and they have now their opponents, both of them, that in their own words, I believe, destroyed their own campaign. And it's very clear. So you want that same impact, because those clips of you saying that will be shared as well. Those are the things you want. If you think about the impact of the Mount Rushmore speech, I mean, conservatives were looking around going, wow.
Yeah, that's what Trump needs to do. Every speech needs to be the Mount Rushmore speech that he gave.
It needs to be the impact of your ad. It needs to be the content like the Mount Rushmore speech. And because, again, nobody commands the room like he does. And when it's the virtual room, same thing.
And the big picture is, I did see the sports guy, Colin Cowherd. Well, I haven't been paying much attention, but she smiles a lot and he doesn't.
Well, there you go. Okay, we have a winner.
Now we know why you do sports.
Exactly.
But I saw that yesterday, and I'm like, oh, my God, you've got to be kidding me. But something very important came out of that. Mm-hmm. People judge you by your tone.
Yeah.
We had said this a long time ago when after 2020, and how many people on the Trump supporters said, see what you got with Biden? Now you regret it? All because of his, you didn't vote for him because of his mean tweets. And you and I said, there's the other way to look at it, too. Don't do the mean tweets. Your goal is to win, not to put out mean tweets. Your goal is not to yell and scream. Your goal is to win, to win, to win, to win. And you don't need to do any personal attacks on anyone. You don't need to attack any Republican. You simply look at your opposition and say, they're the problem. Yeah. You point, and he said, they're the problem, but we believe that this country has unlimited potential, right?
Yeah.
Mount Rushmore speech. Exactly. Freedom, liberty, everything else. And that's what, and I've seen some of the commercials now. We're going back and looking at Trump's life.
Yeah.
Well, and there's one who was on with Oprah, and he's young and talking about, this is a guy who always has been. And we have said, We were just, God, we were living in 2020. We were, because we had said in 2020, now is the time to say, I'm a builder.
Yep.
I'm a builder. These people destroy things. I build things. I create things. That's what you do. We get things done. They destroy things. They need to bring up the fact that that inflation didn't just happen.
Right.
It just wasn't organic. That these people are instituting policies that are hurting you and hurting your family.
Exactly. And I would even add to the builder thing. I've been building things all of my adult life.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it alone.
Yeah.
People came together. Everybody came together. The people literally from the ground up were building these massive buildings, and the companies that I have run, and this has been repeated not just by me, but by multiple individuals since the beginning of this nation. And it can happen again. We have everything that we need. We just have to choose to do it.
No, that's a great point. I could see us. Hey, we're quitting today. Look, $1 million. No. What are we up to now?
I was up to $1 trillion. Here's the thing.
Look, Trump, just give us $10 million each
for the next 3 months. I'm offering 50% off. $500 billion.
No, but I feel like we're in a room.
Yeah.
For a politician saying, just do this, and it's the win, it's the win, it's the win. But when you said that, the entire thing about, Trump should say, I built things my entire life. That's what I've done my entire life. I've built things. I've built buildings, but I couldn't do it alone. I needed the workers out there, the construction workers, the electricians, the plumbers. You go through the entire thing, the truck drivers, everybody. And then when the buildings were built, the maintenance people, everything in there, it takes us all together to build a great country. I'm a builder, and I know you're builders. Come along with me, and let's build America.
Well, it really is jumping off of the idea of the economy of a pencil, Milton Friedman, of what it takes to put one pencil together, the cooperation, and how great it is all along the way, and how many people. What was his name? I forget the congressman who was going after the rich and said. It was the
which one?
Yeah, right. Remember that one congressman that went after the rich that one time?
The one Democrat?
Just only the one that went out only the one time it happened. What was his name? Was he in Florida? The one guy. I think of it. I can see his face. And we tore it down because he said, "Look at what the rich can do." It was. The tax for the wealthy, and look with all this extra money they get to keep. Here are all the things that we can buy, or they can buy, they can purchase, and we broke it down. He even brought up Grey Poupon, which was what a hack move. But we said, okay, great, let's tear it down. Let's start with the glass, the jar itself. What about the paint that goes onto the jar? What about the lid? What's the lid made from?
Alan Grayson.
Alan Grayson, yes. And then the content. What it takes to make the content of that jar. And then he went into the thing about the yacht. Oh, okay. Let's look at the yacht industry. Who builds the yachts? Who's maintaining the yachts?
Well, that was the whole thing with during the Clinton administration. One of the first things they did was the yacht tax,
right?
And they had to kick it out because people were then, we're not going to buy
jobs.
We're not going to buy American yachts anymore.
Right,
we can go wherever in the world and buy yachts.
Right.
Oops.
Yeah. And those are the things that, and again, from the great mind of the late Milton Friedman, the economy of a pencil, and Trump, I think, is great at doing that. When he stops to do it. And those are the things, and again, it goes back to the fact that he, and everybody acknowledges this, he had great relationships. He got along better with the people in the hard hats than he did with the people in the boardrooms and the suits. Keep in mind, in 2012, Mitt Romney was the rich guy with a fraction of Donald Trump's wealth, and couldn't get it done because of the envy and the jealousy and everything else, and probably lack of support, full support from a lot of us conservatives, there was some of that. But from the left, it was, or from the middle, I would say, certainly, some of this, so much jealousy and envy. And 4 years later, Donald Trump wins. And the reason is because he does have that regular guy appeal. But he also has his list of accomplishments, not just in business, which is what everybody was jumping off of in 2016. He's a businessman. He's a businessman. He's a businessman. It was now you can add to that his accomplishments as president and where we were as a nation up until COVID hit.
The Grey Poupon thing was 14 years ago.
My gosh, that's crazy.
Alan Grayson.
That is crazy. We broke that down. We stopped it at every turn, every example that he gave.
Yeah.
We stopped it and said, okay, let's take a look at it. And we actually did our research. Okay, let's go into how the glass is made for the jars, how the jars are made. Where does the paint come from for the jars? What about the lids?
Yeah.
And what it takes to make the lids and then everything else. You know?
That's sort of coming back. Have you seen the meme recently? It's back out there again. Well, and it was a meme, how many people could you feed instead of having the private jet?
Right.
And then it broke down what it takes to build a private jet and how many people it fed because it employed people who worked to build that private jet and the thousands of different pieces of that private jet that had to be built by, hundreds upon hundreds of different companies out there. And it's like, you're clueless because you don't understand economics.
A guy scoffed at a friend of mine. A friend of mine pulled up in his brand new Corvette, and the guy scoffed. He was getting into his car and scoffed. He goes, "You know how many families you could feed?" He goes, "No, I did. I'll tell you how many families it took to build this Corvette." And he just went into the spiel, just boom, 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 boom. And the guy's mouth was just open. He didn't say a word, got in his car and drove off.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have two options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper, as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You see the New York Times article. We'll get to this coming up here. The New York Times article that says Kamala Harris let the uncommitted voters in Michigan, which is code for pro-Hamas voters,
Right.
that she's considering an embargo on weapons for Israel. That she would keep an open mind on an embargo of weapons to Israel. That came from the New York Times, not a conservative outlet.
Right.
And we'll have that story for you, which brings me to the point that with bringing, did you see what they're calling him now? Tim Walz.
Oh, wow.
Tim Walz, and then Tampon Tim yesterday. But those are the kind of things, normally if you're like, well, they all relate to something.
No, that goes back to a
right.
very real concern about his behavior and his pattern of behavior.
Yep. But are they going to be able to stay on the left? Or, pretend that they're moving towards the middle? Now, you saw when she was out speaking yesterday, Harris was speaking, she was being heckled.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, the pro-Hamas, they had a chant going,
Yep.
And, look, silence is violence with them. The pro-terrorist is That's their take.
Yeah. Because, again, on the one hand, they're saying, oh, right, she's in. On the other hand, they're saying, but she's saying she supports Israel just like Biden.
Exactly.
We don't like Biden. She's just like Biden.
This is the conundrum that the left has, because we know they're only pretending to go to the middle, but they know politically, in order to convince the independent, you really have to pretend to be in the middle. And can they afford to do that? That's a great question.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. Yeah, here's the New York Times article. The headline, Breitbart reprinted it. Kamala Harris open to discussing arms embargo on Israel in exchange for Michigan uncommitted voters. Now, the Michigan uncommitted voters are the pro-Hamas votes.
Yeah.
Vice President Kamala Harris indicated Wednesday that she would be open to discussing an arms embargo against Israel in exchange for the support of the so-called uncommitted movement of the Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan. The New York Times reported before her rally in Detroit, this is from the New York Times, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke briefly with the co-founders of the uncommitted national movement, which mobilized tens of thousands of voters in Michigan to withhold their votes from President Biden in the primary earlier this year over his support for Israel's war in Gaza. The leaders said that they were in the welcoming line for Harris and Governor Walz, and communicated to Harris that they wanted to support her, but that voters wanted her to consider an arms embargo to immediately stop the carnage in the besieged enclave. Harris listened to stories of people in Michigan who have had dozens of family members killed in Gaza. The leaders asked to meet with her about the embargo request, and she indicated she was open to it and introduced the two leaders to her staff. That's not from a conservative media outlet. That is from the New York Times. Later, Harris was heckled by pro-Hamas protesters during her speech. The protesters chanted, "Kamala, Kamala, you can't hide. We won't vote for genocide." And that comes back to the question, how long? Remember, she has not talked about the fact any of her flip-flops come from the campaign, not out of her mouth.
Right.
They're still, from what I know, as of late yesterday, on her campaign website, there is still no platform as to what she believes.
Right.
And so you and I said it the other day when it's like, well, she's flip-flopped and everything. And I said, when I saw that story, I said, well, yeah, she's flip-flopped and everything. I said, well, actually, she hasn't. The campaign has. And you have to understand how Democrats work. You have to look at Democrats and go, Democrats explain things like Karine Jean-Pierre. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I said, I'm actually thinking this is a part of plausible deniability for later on. When she gets confronted by people who said, no, you flipped. You're pro-fracking now.
Mm-hmm.
I never said I was pro-fracking. Your campaign did. My campaign did. I didn't. Right. As if there's a separation. And so I wouldn't put it past her to do something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so when she came out as we stand behind Israel, it's like, we all know that's a lie. Just like Biden, we know it's a lie, Politically, they have to, but they don't want to.
Well, and again, how far can they go? When she says, I would consider an arms embargo on Israel. All right, you've got to convince those individuals who are, doing the chant there in Michigan that you'll go the full measure. I mean, I would think since you're part of the current administration, they're going to call on you to go to Joe Biden and get that done now. Why wait until you're president? See, this is what they get into, the conundrum. That you can't appease. There's no way to appease radicals like this. There isn't. I'm convinced Biden could declare war on Israel and still not get their votes. Because, I mean, this is how impossible the radicals have been. Yeah, sure. You went to war with Israel, but you didn't mean it. I mean, but they...
Well, they're terrorists. It's never enough.
Exactly.
Unless you're dead.
Right, exactly.
If you're dead, that's enough.
Yeah, right.
You're from the West, you're dead, irrespective of whether you're Democrat or Republican. If you're dead, then they're happy.
I saw somebody making the joke about, how liberals get upset about, like Bryan Cranston played a quadriplegic in a movie. And it was a movie based on real life with Kevin Hart. It was actually a very good movie. And the comedian was talking about it, saying they went after Bryan Cranston, or they actually not Bryan Cranston, but they went after the movie makers because they didn't have someone who was because Bryan Cranston was an actual quadriplegic. And the guy said, well, what's next? The comedian, well, what's next? That the actor has to actually get murdered in the movie? Where does this end? They're actors. And, but this is trying to appease them. Remember when McDonald's, I'm old enough to remember when McDonald's had salads. And, you try and get with the trend and everything else, and Subway was on the rise and all these things. And, it's back when, remember Jared? Because he walked and ate sandwiches. He was turned into I don't know. But all of these things were driven in McDonald's by what? By protesters who really didn't ever eat at McDonald's. Yeah. You're not going to appease. It is that same mindset, still very much alive. In fact, is even, I think, louder today. But politically, when you're trying to get elected on the left and you're trying to please everybody, there's just no way. The truth and the issues right now are on the Republican side, and the polls show it in landslide numbers. But we've seen that before. We've seen that happen before. You mentioned it, I think it was yesterday, going back to 2012. Obama was being reelected. Now, Obama had momentum going in to a reelection, right. So, there's that. But after each of the debates on the issues, Mitt Romney, landslide numbers.
Well, the exit polls, people coming out of election night,
right?
That by huge numbers they supported Romney on the issues,
right? And yet, he didn't win. And so those are the things you have to look at in where they are and what they now look. Kamala, this is so vastly different than 2012 or 2016 or even 2020. We've said that. And Kamala Harris does not have that kind of momentum. Anything right now going in her favor is contrived, period. It's a house of cards. It's a facade. It's not real. And liberals know this. None of you guys were chanting her name, saying she should be the one.
You wanted her off the ticket for Biden.
Exactly. And
she was a drag on Biden 3 weeks ago.
She wasn't. She needs to step down too. In their delusional mind, she needs to step down so that somebody else, a fresh ticket, can come in And, of course, that wasn't going to happen because you can't leapfrog over Kamala. That was never going to happen. And now the conundrum. Look, she's a radical. There's no doubt. But you have to pretend for a moment, we all know it's pretending, that you're in the middle. But you keep talking like that, and then you say, open to arms embargoes with Israel. Whoa. Yesterday was a bad day for the Harris-Walz ticket. It was a bad day.
Well, it's going to continue. They're going to continue to have bad days because Trump has already been vetted.
Mm-hmm.
J.D. Vance has now been vetted.
Yeah.
When you are so radical on the issues, as both Walz and Harris are, they have the audio.
Yeah. Yep.
As we have said, to lay out where this campaign is right now, on getting away from the minutia of it, just the general umbrella of it. The American public, by landslide numbers, agrees with the Republicans and Trump on the issues. I'll play the audio cut coming up following the top of the hour. Ramaswamy yesterday being interviewed. He goes, exactly what we have said. Trump's a moderate.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, on all the positions he holds, is a moderate. The reason that he loses votes, people don't like him.
Yeah.
People will vote against their best self-interests because they don't like you in politics. That's a reality.
Yep.
That goes back to the whole tweeting thing.
Yep.
Well, you didn't vote for him because of mean tweets. And the accusation there is you're stupid because you're voting against your own self-interest. Well, the other way to look at it is a politician's job is to win, not to put out mean tweets.
Right.
So stick to the issues that the people agree with you with. Don't be mean.
Right.
Unless it's completely and totally warranted and justifiable, and as Trump does, as the campaign does, that 70 to 80% of the people agree with you on the issues, and all you've got to do is not convince them to change their mind on the issues, just to vote for you.
Right.
Because you stand on those issues. They know you stand on the issues. So just stick to the issues.
Right.
Give Mount Rushmore speeches as he did. That was a 4th of July speech, right? It was an Independence Day speech,
Yeah.
I remember,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
In 2020, yeah. It was in 2020.
Mm.
Yeah. That was a great speech.
Yeah.
That was a great, that was his best speech. He needs to do that, knock it out of the park. Every single rally that he holds, you make it 20, 25 minutes long. That's it. Make it that way. Walk away.
Your base is there in person, and that's a given at a rally. But you're not talking to your base at a rally right now.
No, you're not. But they'd still agree with everything that you have said if you're attempting to get independence.
There's zero reason, again, to not do it, because they're already on board. They're going to cheer you on. They're on board, but you're not talking to them. You're trying to change the hearts and minds of the people in the middle, the independents, and the truth and the issues are on your side.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading this headline. Mark Cuban on Tim Walz. People are missing the lesson. Americans want to vote for normal people.
Wow.
He really blew it when he started, when Cuban played stupid on DEI. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, DEI, what's it about? It's about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Who could be against that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's Cuban playing stupid on that. But again, we knew. Look, we talked about his response being an NBA owner back when the Black Lives Matter riots, took place, and being full in support of that lie that police departments are systemically racist around the country. But he's really, he came out yesterday. Well, yeah, when Trump was unknown, I said I wouldn't mind running with him. Remember that?
Yeah,
way back then.
Right.
But Cuban may be a billionaire, but when it comes to politics, when it comes to tons of politics and things, he's an intellectual lightweight.
Yeah.
He really is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I think many on the right look at J.D. Vance as a normal guy. The left wants you to believe he's weird.
Well, Mark Cuban apparently believes then that advocating that children can get sex changes
exactly what I was about
is
to say.
normal.
Yeah.
That's
exactly
what
I was about to say.
Mark Cuban believes that. Mark Cuban believes then, by stating that Tim Walz is normal, that it's normal to want 5, 6, and 7-year-olds to be exposed to sexually explicit content.
Yeah.
That's normal to Mark Cuban.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not adding anything to this. He's saying Waltz is normal, which means his positions you believe are normal.
Yep.
So Mark Cuban believes Mark Cuban's warped sense of what normal is to the American public. It may be normal, that perverted mindset for Mark Cuban, but it's not for the rest of America.
No.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Welcome and good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You saw this audio came up from the past from Waltz yesterday. I think he said, I believe this is 2020. I believe this was during COVID. I'm not sure the exact date of it, but it doesn't matter. You ready? Here we go.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
It's amazing how many Democrats, remember Chris Cuomo?
Yeah.
No idea. Hate speech isn't protected by the First Amendment. Yeah, it is. It's amazing the ignorance or the fake ignorance as to what the First Amendment protects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First Amendment protects you from if think about this. If the First Amendment did not protect misinformation, Walz and Harris would be in jail by the government.
Right.
The government would have put them in jail. But Karine Jean-Pierre.
Oh, that would be a life sentence.
Would be
She'd be a lifer.
It without parole.
Right. Yeah.
So she could irritate everybody in prison.
Yes.
Misinformation isn't protected under the First Amendment. Just escape from Washington, D.C., put a damn wall around it, like in the New York City movie.
Escape from New York, Snake Plissken. Yeah.
Because, my God, that's the funniest thing. The First Amendment does not protect misinformation. As we have stated, you know who lies to you more than anybody? Government.
I was telling Steven Tyler this the other day on the phone, this last weekend. We're talking about the band, not touring anymore. I said, man, there's so many liars out there, but there are no bigger liars.
You need a new one.
Not yet.
Aerosmith broke up.
I know we haven't closed the office.
You need a new lie.
Well, the band hasn't broken up. We're just not touring.
You need a new lie.
Yeah, no.
But I mean,
it's not a lie if you believe it.
That's the funniest thing, though, is these the arrogant liars.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, Walz. Think about this. Walz said that the First Amendment does not protect misinformation or hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then he should be in jail for that statement.
Right.
If it doesn't. Because he was lying. The First Amendment does protect. So him talking about the First Amendment doesn't protect misinformation. He should be in jail for saying that because it does protect misinformation if it didn't protect misinformation. Did that make sense?
I think, but I'm not at liberty to say. I plead the fifth. I don't want to go to jail. Putting false information out.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, it's, again, further demonstration of the left and what they want people to believe or what they actually ignorantly believe themselves. And eventually, what's interesting is for those who, and we know that they know the truth, but they're promoting the same idea, they also promote that there should be laws, people should go to jail for using the wrong pronoun. Well, if you believe that being offensive, the First Amendment doesn't protect you, then there's no reason for a new law to put somebody behind jail for using the wrong pronoun. They build their own brick walls, the left, and they run into them all the time.
Well, that's when we start talking about the difference between the left and the right in this country, it is the left that wishes to get rid of the First Amendment.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Right there is more evidence of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if it doesn't, it should.
That's where you start building the consensus. Right. Well, nobody should. Actually, it's the reason. So that I'm free to say something you don't agree with.
Yeah, who judges a misinformation and puts you in jail for it?
Right.
Or what's the fight? Now, as we know...
Who deems what offensive is?
There's again, the First Amendment is about government. It's not about... That's why in civil lawsuits, if you tell a lie about somebody, you can be civilly liable. You don't go to prison for it, but you can go bankrupt because of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is a punishment for but the state can't stop you from saying it.
Right.
And the state can't put you in jail. But an individual can sue you. But the First Amendment is about the government restricting speech or the government forcing you to speak in a certain way.
Remember the whole misinformation czar thing?
Oh, my God.
I mean, it was right out. And they say that, again, Trump is the fascist. We're going to have a misinformation czar. And it turns out the person that they were going to have in that position is one of those responsible for the most misinformation.
Yeah.
Oops. Because we believe that you're capable of learning the truth, finding the truth, knowing the truth yourself. We don't believe you're stupid. You may not know the truth, but we believe you're capable of learning it or finding it. And in today's world, you mentioned earlier the influence of the media back in the day, because we've gotten this before. Back in the day, the mainstream media had much greater influence. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have this device in your hand. We've gotten that before where, well, Now look at all the different liberal media outlets. Look at all the different ways to find the truth. And this is what the left is afraid of. Remember when Obama was given the one commencement address? Now, don't go out there and get into all these computers. We said, well, likely the reason is because don't go out there and actually Google the truth. We've indoctrinated you fully here at this very liberal university campus. We need you to take that and go act on it. Don't go out there searching for the truth.
Well, when you realize, and we had brought to you the other day, and we thought it was really important to bring to you the actual audience of the 24/7 news channels out there and of the networks. And so people understand that the media does not have the power that they once had. When I was growing up, there was ABC, NBC, CBS. That was it.
Right.
There's nothing else out there. And the nightly news, and I still see the memes, we need people like Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite admitted that he was biased. It was a more subtle bias.
Yep. Yeah.
And no, he didn't go as far as today's so-called, quote, journalists with just absolute lies that could be easily fact-checked, and then there was no shame because of it. But it was ABC, NBC, and CBS, and you had your local newspaper, for the most part, that was liberal. It was completely dominant. The media was dominant on the left. When you see MSNBC, for example, the median age of people watching MSNBC, that means half are above and half are below, 70.
Yeah.
It's higher than Fox that was at 69.
Yeah.
That's the median, and CNN at 67. And then they said the networks, but I don't know, the point I brought up, they said now they looked at CBS, ABC, and NBC that was in the 60s, and I said, yeah, but is that just for their news, or is that all day long? And that wasn't broken down. So you're talking about, and then newspapers, you think 40-year-olds are buying the New York Times so they can get through the paywall? Or the Washington Post? No, they're not. It's all older. Everybody's getting their news for free on the internet. Is there misinformation? Yeah, but if you look at where the public stands on the issues, the public basically knows where Trump stands on the issues versus Kamala Harris.
Yep.
It's accurate. The polls show that the truth is getting through to the American public.
Yep.
All the polls show that. Now, there's a huge disconnect. It looks like there's about 20 to 25% of the population that agrees with Republicans but is voting Democrat or wishes to vote Democrat. Over the last couple of weeks, the polls were reversed. There were fewer of them a month ago. But the fact is, the public does know what's going on.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's the reason isn't because of isn't because the mainstream media controls all the narrative. It's because they don't control all the narrative anymore.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know to what extent we are more curious as a society, but I think we are more prone to follow up on that curiosity in the event that we are curious. The point being is that it's so easy. You'll be talking to friends. By the way, don't Google whether or not I was in Aerosmith. Stop it. You'll be talking to friends, you'll talk about something, and all of a sudden everybody looks at their phone, they're all Googling it to try and get the answer. Hey, what happened to that guy that was in that band Aerosmith and then went into radio? And then, you know, the entire group looks down at their phone, they all start researching right away, you know? And people get, when they do get curious, they follow up on it. The truth is working right now for the Trump campaign because of the issue's reality. There is no harsher truth right now than the reality that people are facing, both on all levels with national security, which includes a broken border, with the pro-Hamas left, with inflation, and it is crystal clear, but also requires the support of the campaign to get in and remind and point and also play the opposition at every turn in their own words to remind people of what it would be like if Kamala Harris became president. If Kamala Harris and now Tim Walz beat you November 5th, you don't want to win.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from Ramaswamy.
All right.
On this campaign. You know, one of the problems that Harris is going to have, and this is where the campaign was faking that they were moving to the middle on everything, is one of the reasons she can't answer questions. Can you imagine one of the first questions would be if she did a press conference? New York Times is reporting that you're open to a arms embargo with Israel. She's got to answer that in person.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a huge question. Now, she's, in fact, ensured that if she were to do a one-on-one, that would be one of the first questions.
Yeah. New York Times reporting that you're open to discussing an arms embargo in exchange for Michigan uncommitted voters, which are the pro-Hamas voters.
Right.
Is that true or not? She's going to have to answer that, and either way she answers that is not going to be good for her.
Well, because it becomes she would try and attach a bunch of conditions to it. Well, going forward, we would look at that, and then she's right into a word salad. There's no way she's not. They want you to commit.
And what gives it credibility to any mainstream media person is the New York Times wrote it.
Yep. Right. It's not Fox News.
Right. They could go right to the article and say, here it is from there. Before her rally in Detroit, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke briefly with the co-founders of the Uncommitted National Movement, which mobilized tens of thousands of voters in Michigan to withhold their votes from President Biden in the primary earlier this year over his support for Israel's war in Gaza. The leaders said that they were in the welcoming line for Harris and Governor Walz and communicated to Harris that they wanted to support her, but that voters wanted her to consider an arms embargo to immediately stop the carnage in the besieged enclave. Harris listened to the stories of the people in Michigan who have had dozens of family members killed in Gaza. The leaders asked to meet with her about the embargo request, and she indicated she was open to it and introduced the two leaders to the staff. Now, you could take that and you would say, now, Ms. Harris, does that mean that you want to have a meeting with them because you're open to it, or you're willing to be convinced if they have a point that there should be an Israel arms embargo? She can't answer that question.
There's no way. She can't get into this the actual discussion on that. Because, again, she's going to have to attach all types of conditions to it. Well, if this and if that, and then, again, boom, it's not long. She's in a word salad because she doesn't know what she's doing. She's in over her head.
It would be the big word salad.
Yeah. And you can't, and there's no way around it.
That's a problem that she has. So you're now pro-fracking, where you've always been anti-fracking. What about climate change?
Right.
The left is going to ask those questions to her.
Are you not committed to climate change?
You know, it was also bad, though, and I don't know how it was, how people portray stuff, but the way I viewed it was bad, just going through social media, and it's where, when Vance went right over to where the airplane, Air Force Two, was parked, and said to reporters, "She won't answer your questions, so I will." If you're looking for somebody to answer some questions, I will. And then when Walz came out and they were screaming at him, "What about the stolen valor?" He did the same thing, turned around and walked away.
Yep.
And now the impression's coming, whether it's true or not. I mean, I don't know. He may take questions tomorrow, or she could, whatever, but it continues. The pressure keeps going on. Why won't these people answer questions, and how similar are they to the Biden administration, which is why this election isn't over?
Well, this is it. There was this sigh of relief from the left. Oh, okay, now it's going to be somebody who can stay awake on stage and knows that they're actually on stage. Except she still can't talk to the media. She still can't talk openly to the media.
And you think about everything that has come out just because she picked Walz.
Oh, my gosh.
That would not have come out if she picked Josh Shapiro, except the fact of why did he flip-flop on Israel. But
yeah.
That's not an inflation issue. It's not a border issue. It's and so Shapiro, but Shapiro again, when he came out yesterday and advocated for sexually explicit content for children.
Yeah.
We know where he stands, but it's not where you stand actually as a Democrat. It's how well Democrats believe you can lie to the American public.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The whole stolen valor thing is getting really interesting. I just was reading one column from a Democrat on social media. It's not stolen valor. Yeah, he tried to make it seem like he carried a weapon and fought in war, but he really didn't. But stolen valor is about saying you got a medal when you didn't get a medal. It's not. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like,
sorry.
And I'm like, okay, continue on that one. And it's like, if the case is so strong, he would have already spoken on it. But if Walz has to stand in front and take questions on it, he's going to have to admit that he never carried a weapon of war into combat.
Well, and then the liberal media fact-checked it, and so they were reporting it yesterday, CNN, CBS, and you're not going to get around that question. Here's the problem. You and I were talking about it earlier during a break, and while the left and far left doesn't care about it, the independents do. And the reason this whole idea of adding a was it folksy socialist? What they call
folksy socialist? Yes.
Yeah, to the ticket. He's a regular guy, wears a ball cap, whatever. It's all of those things. The imaging you're trying to provide fades away. In fact, quickly falls away in something like this because people don't take that lightly. And you can go through all the different claims, but really the one that stands out for people is his claim, and he said it a few times, basically that he was in war, that he served in war. And he was doing it while trying to basically give credibility as to why the government should ban certain types of weapons. So he's attacking the Second Amendment while pretending, in fact, wants people to believe that he served in wartime. There's no way around the fact that stains you forever. Again, with your base, not so much. but with independents, there's no doubt it does. It can't measure it yet. Polls aren't out yet, but there's no way that this helps you. It only harms you, and it doesn't go away.
One of my favorite posts I saw on Facebook last night was Nancy Pelosi has just called Walz and said we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And that was the funniest thing that just in less than 24 hours it was already out there. He may be gone by the end of the week. She may pick a new She may pick a new vice president running mate. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, right.
By the way, that's not. But it's you think about it, and the reason I bring up the stolen valor, and I don't know all the information on it yet. I mean, I've seen a lot of accusations there, and obviously from what I've seen, he said in his own words on video, the impression was he fought in war. That's the impression he was giving people.
Yeah, and that's been
right.
that's been confirmed by multiple liberal media outlets that he did not.
Right. Let me just CNN basically. This is, I believe, some of the discussion on it yesterday. Here we go.
Make a comment speaking to a group. He's done it a couple of times where he has used language that has suggested that he carried weapons in a fighting situation. As you know, with your contact with the military, I know from coming from a military family, there is a difference between being in a combat area, being involved at a time of war, and actually being in a position where people are shooting at you. There is no evidence that at any time Governor Walz was in a position of being shot at, and some of his language could easily be seen to suggest that he was. So that is absolutely false when he said that about gun rights out there.
From what we know, the story is he was with some medical doctors, and they came under artillery attack. The Jeep was blown up, and so they jumped into a foxhole, and his commanding officer said, take this gun and use this gun because the enemy's right there. And he said, no, I won't do it. I won't.
No, that was an episode of MASH.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. That was the MASH episode.
Yeah.
That wasn't believable.
Yeah.
So what we call the stupidest MASH episode ever.
It was horrible. Talk about, and then the idea, in fact, that in his biography on Kamala Harris's website, I haven't looked at the website in a few minutes, but he's listed in his bio on Kamala Harris's website. He's described as a retired command sergeant major. That would be in the Army. That's an E9. My dad retired as an E9 in the Air Force. However, and this is from CBS News, documents reviewed by CBS News, and I will add other liberal and mainstream media outlets, show this is not accurate. While Walz served at one point as command sergeant major, he retired at a lower rank. Basically, he made command sergeant major. It was provisional, and some reporting that until the paperwork was done. Actually, I believe that would be testing that had to be completed. Mm-hmm. And someone can fact check me on that. I'm fine with that. But it is confirmed that he retired as master sergeant and not E9. Now, he has also said he was in Congress? He was the highest ranked non-commissioned officer to ever serve in Congress. Some kind of claim from over the years. Look, those things. All of these things are, and that's a big deal, by the way. That is a huge deal. I remember I didn't learn a lot about my dad's service until I grew up and got older, and obviously as an Air Force brat, there were a lot of things. Dad just didn't share everything about the testing and everything else. He went to college. He finished his college and his master's degree after he was eligible for officer training school. But back in that day, it was, remember Black Sheep Squadron? You college boys. No. So my dad was a non-commissioned officer and I'm very proud, and he still is very proud of his service. But there's for all of it that go through the ranks, you have to go through the testing and everything else. And so for those who did go through that and achieved, for you to put that in your bio, because why would you put that in your bio if it's not true? Because you believe it helps you.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you say it when talking about the Second Amendment if it's not true? Because you believe it's going to help you. And that kind of lie, that kind of stolen valor, or whatever you want to label it, but that kind of lie is especially damaging for so many members of the military, former members of the military, families of the members of the military, but then also anybody that's paying attention to the political landscape, because you're doing it to try and gain power. You're lying about something that you never did or never achieved in order to gain power, and people find that reprehensible. That's a stain you cannot lift off.
Especially when it concerns military service.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's, that's the difference. It's, there have been people in the past, there's stolen valor is a thing, quite unfortunately. But it is something that you have to, now people are going to accuse me of stolen rock and roll valor with the whole Aerosmith thing. I look forward to your emails.
Well, remember,
it's
remember the one time.
This is why I changed it to Aerosmith.
Yeah, because he would always joke and he'd go, when I was in the Navy SEALs.
When I was in the Navy SEALs.
Right. And obviously.
My dry humor is.
But the way you said it was, it was the dry humor, sarcastic thing. Somebody believed him one time and said,
gentleman,
congratulations on your service as a Navy SEAL.
It was like somebody punched me in the gut.
Yeah,
it was.
Like, it really
oh, my gosh, I've got to end this now. It was in my dry humor trying to make the absurd point that I could ever be a Navy SEAL.
Right.
And I have not served, to be clear. It is, one of those things when you look at it with very serious eyes. That's why it was like, oh, no. What's funnier? Aerosmith.
So you went from a Navy SEAL to a member of Aerosmith.
Yeah. Now, listen, it is true that I am starting a Rick Astley tribute band, but that's a totally different thing. But
and also a lie.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be called Rick and Roll, and we're going to Rick roll ourselves with every song. We're going to start a classic rock song, and then right when we get to where the lyrics kick in, we're going to start the Rick Astley song every time. It's not going to go well. I already know that, but it's going to be funny for a moment. But
I remember that happened. How you were it really bothered you that
it was a very serious moment
that even somebody would take it seriously, and it was obviously tongue in cheek. Every time you did that,
it's my stupid humor, but people take that very seriously, and that's what I didn't. I wasn't mindful of, and it was stupid. But those things when you're trying to gain power. Everybody knows. Look, at Red Eye Radio, we control the political landscape. We know how much power we actually have. All of our fans know. All of our listeners actually know that. But we just pretend like we don't have power. So we're not. It's a different thing. But when you're trying to, this is one thing. In fact, I've had the conversation with my dad. My dad has said it unsolicitedly for a long, long time. That people who hold office, you have a great responsibility when you serve. You're a public servant. I think a lot of us believe that, and you have a great responsibility, obviously, in the armed forces when you serve. And so when you lie about service in order to gain power, those are the things. I think those two things, being listed as command sergeant major in a bio, and then attacking the Second Amendment while lying about your time at war. Those aren't things you can just erase.
No.
That's not saying, I'm sorry, I misspoke. You can't just make it. Some of the liberal media tried that yesterday. Well, he misspoke, or there was some misinformation, of blah, 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 blah. Even the audio cut we just played kind of soft-walked it, through from CNN. But the reality is that people see that and say, my gosh, if you'll lie about, by the way, lie about something that is easily found out. The truth is easily found out. I don't know why you would lie about that, knowing that your record is going to be found by the media. I don't know why you would lie about that, but they do.
Now, here's the question. Is Harris furious that somebody didn't vet him on that, or that he didn't come forward with that?
I would be, but here's the thing. It's not new.
Or, as I said earlier, they're Democrats. They don't care about stolen valor. They really don't.
If you're not concerned about, no, I think it's a great point. If you're not concerned about it, you don't look for it.
If you served in the military, if you served in the military and you're a Democrat, you might.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
There is an outrage.
If you're not concerned about it, you don't look for it.
Right.
Not that they wouldn't be concerned if they learned it.
Look, if there's no,
but you don't look for it.
If there's no outrage about age-appropriate materials for children, if there's no outrage for children being able to decide that they believe that children should be able to decide to cut off their private parts, then you think they care about stolen valor?
Well, what greater lie is there than that man is a woman?
Yeah. If they accept that lie,
this guy wanted to, move to put tampons in the boys' restroom.
I will admit, I heard that yesterday, and I did burst out laughing.
Tampon Tim,
and then the one I heard was it Tim Walz. Now, is a new one.
Yeah,
it's like, wow.
Yeah, you can't erase this.
Those things stick because they are based on things that are true.
Yes.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Did you see Fetterman said yesterday that if you match Trump and Harris in Pennsylvania, Trump's going to win?
Well,
you think about this. It was all for 2 solid weeks.
Yeah.
There was nothing negative from the media about Kamala Harris. Walz gets picked, and
Oh,
boom.
it was a dumpster fire yesterday.
It really was.
I mean, and I don't think it's going away. The problem is they're running from the cameras, they're running from the questions. Well, that even makes them more curious.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot.
All right, we have to talk about this yesterday because I think it was a key moment in this campaign.
Yeah.
And we never got a chance to talk about it yet because there's so many things. This is where J.D. Vance walks up to the media awaiting Kamala Harris's awaiting Kamala Harris outside of Air Force 2. And remember, he's following them to the cities that they go in.
Right.
And doing his own, rallies and speeches and taking questions, actually doing press conferences, taking questions from reporters. So they're on the same tarmac, same airport.
Yeah.
He gets up and walks over to the media that's waiting for Harris. Here's a part of it. Here we go.
I figured I'd come by and wanted to see a good look at the plane. Hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months, but I also thought you guys might get lonely because the vice president doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days. Have they given
guys an explanation for why she won't take questions from reporters? No.
So he's asking them, not only is he willing to take questions from them, he's asking the reporters questions.
Right.
And you and I were talking about this, and again, we didn't fully extrapolate to each other, but our full thoughts. But you were talking about being a normal person by him doing that, by just walking across.
Yeah.
That's a normal, confident person who looks and goes, "What's going on here? We're running for the highest office of the land. Hey, media, did she give you any explanation why she won't answer questions? Because we'll answer any questions that you have."
Right.
And it's just, it was, I don't want to use the word, but it did come up in our conversation before. What a gangster move.
It's a gangster move. It's seriously, there is a gangster move
hate
politically.
That lingo. Yeah.
Well, I do too. But if you're going to describe anything as gangster, that was it right there, because it reminded me of Andrew Breitbart. That's an Andrew Breitbart approach, and I think even and it's on a greater level, because J.D. Vance is saying, "Hey, I'm here, and I'm also vying for to be in the highest office and serve under the president, and I'm willing to." Did they tell you why they're not? I'm willing to.
And you can tell there was a quiet in the reporters, and he put up his hands.
No idea what to do.
He put up his hands like, "Well, anything?" And then somebody answered him.
Right.
It was like they're going, "What the hell's going on here?" He's walking over to us.
Gosh.
They knew it was a media moment at that part. And then when he starts asking them questions, he's like, how do we respond? And then somebody did. I couldn't hear how they responded.
Right.
And he just says, "Well, we're always here to answer your questions, whatever." And they really didn't have anything for him. Because he already answered questions, he turned around and
it comes after Tim Walz says, "I can't wait to debate that guy," but you won't talk to the media.
Well, then later on, when Walz is going back to the plane, they're screaming at him.
Yeah.
About what do you think about the stolen valor? Come on back, talk to us. Turns around and goes.
He's doing. They're both doing exactly what Biden does.
And the thing is that. I'm telling you. I'll be on my deathbed no matter what happens here and go, I can't believe I actually was able to cover this. This was my job.
Yeah.
Because you and I have covered some incredible things. And even when I wasn't working with you, I covered some incredible things in my life. I've never covered anything close to this presidential election at all, with everything that has happened here. And there's all these new twists and turns. But when that happened, I was like, that was a microcosm of everything that's going on here. And that's the fact that you have a political race right now. And I think this may be the first time in history, I'll ask it as a question, is this the first time in history where you have had one political party where they stand on the issues, the vast majority of the American public agrees with them, they're willing to answer questions and go anywhere, to the point of sometimes it could work against them. And the other side that is currently slightly leading in the polls, that won't answer any questions from the media about anything, have flip-flopped. The campaign has flip-flopped on all the major issues, even though you can see they're slowly starting to walk them back. Again, the public doesn't agree with them on the issues. She's trying to do everything to distance herself from the current incumbent, who she replaced without ever getting one Democrat vote in a primary. And as she's trying to move away from being tied to Biden, she acts just like him. It's just...
It really is
fascinating.
There was, and maybe this is why the left, part of the reason why the left wasn't chanting her name when they were talking about replacing Biden. Because they know, number one, you're attached to the Biden administration and you're going to carry on the same way. They know, too, that she's not capable. The Democrats know it. They decided that. December 3rd, 2019. Look it up. And now you have it where there is no, it was, of course, it was going to be a continuation of that kind of arrogance. She doesn't want to talk. She doesn't want to talk to the media. She's in over her head. And thinking you're going to get the folksy guy with Governor Walz, and then you step right into it. It was bad. Yesterday was a dumpster fire, a lot like the fires, during riots, like in his state. And it was when the liberal media, when the video clips of the liberal media coming out, checking all of his the claims on stolen valor and everything else. And then it was just over and over again. And I thought, you can't get around this. You can't undo this. And they only have, we're not, this is the thing. This is not January, February of an election year. We're into August now. First week of August is already behind us. You got a short period of time to convince people, and you still haven't talked to the media.
Well, and the convention's right around the corner for them.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because you see how the momentum changed in one day by her picking Walz. In one day. I mean, it went from everything was positive. Now, nothing of substance. But the cheerleading from the media was was like, wow, really?
Yeah.
And it changed like that.
Yeah.
Now, remember how quickly it changed with Biden. It changed like that.
Yep.
Our friend from Salem, Mike Gallagher, friend of the show, great guy. I used to fill in for his show long time ago when I was doing my local show at WBAP. I saw a post that he put on X. And at first I went, nah. I go, well, wait a minute. It could happen. And he says, because you started to see on social media last night when I saw Nancy Pelosi has called Tim Walz and said, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way.
Or Kamala Harris has called Tim Walz. Did you say Nancy? Was it Nancy Pelosi?
It was Nancy Pelosi.
Okay.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi called. And it was basically the trying to repeat what happened to Biden.
Right.
But Mike was making the point. He said, if this thing blows up in his face, and then she starts getting fact checked, and Biden, and not Biden, excuse me, but Trump and J.D. Vance start moving back up, and a week from now the polls are completely different. Could we have a revolution at the convention, and could they replace? Because you've seen also the other stories out there that Biden's really ticked off that he pulled out now.
I told you
that Biden's there's a couple of stories out there that Biden is. I mean, it's social media stories that Biden is, and now even extra furious because she picked Walz, and it's like, well, they can't win. They can't win. I could have won. And it's like with that attitude going on there, Mike's trying to make the point, and I can't say it won't happen. that things could move so quickly as they have.
Which, if it were to happen, it would have to be Tim Walz stepping up, saying, "Listen, for the greater good of the country, I'm going to stand down and let the nominee pick someone else." And blah, blah, blah.
He was talking about her having to pull out too because the numbers go that a completely different set of people after the convention. And I wouldn't have given any credibility to his statement except for everything that's happened in the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because you remember, they have no problem. The reason his point has legitimacy is because within one day, Biden was done. You've got to get out. And then we went through those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But then they had no problem not having any type of mini primary. They had no problem with her not getting one Democrat vote, of putting her in and hating her one day, and 48 hours later, she's the greatest thing in the world. For 2 solid weeks until she picks Walz, and then boom.
If the numbers, if the polls go back,
right.
If the polls go back in Trump's favor, and and there's a rebound there. I don't see anything fixing what damaged the Harris-Walz campaign. There's nothing to fix what damaged them. You know, Trump could step in it and say something, but it's not going to fix for Kamala Harris, for Tim Walz. It's not going to fix what's happened over the last couple of days. There is no fix to it. I don't believe there is a fix to it. And it just depends on how much people care about it.
And then every single day that she won't. And I believe now that the reason is, I originally thought, okay, it's her advisors that don't want her to go out. I now feel it's her. She's afraid to answer questions.
Yeah.
And you said it yesterday.
Yeah.
She believes she's in over her head. She actually doesn't know any of the issues.
No, she doesn't.
She really doesn't understand.
She doesn't understand how things work.
She's not a critical thinker.
Nope.
She knows.
Nope.
She doesn't know. There's too many things coming at her. She doesn't know. She doesn't want to take the chance of being who she actually is. She does not want to be her genuine self in front of the media, which is why you see, because this whole thing, I think him walking over to Air Force Two to those reporters, changed the whole weird normal thing is gone, is dead, because he just walked up. Because the way he walked over and everything, and you and I have covered a lot of political races out there, but his posture, you see his posture walking over. His shoulders are back. But he's walking, very relaxed, and right up to the reporters. Say, hey, what's going on? Well, since she's not going to ask any of the questions, there was nothing. Even if it was fake, you could not perceive any fake in that. It was completely and totally normal. There was no staging involved, and it was like, hey, I'm here. They're not the reporters. Let's go over. Let's cause some trouble here.
There may have been, a contingency plan. Hey, look, if they avoid the questions, which we think they're going to do, then walk over and take your own questions. But it doesn't come off as contrived.
No, it did not. No,
and because, and the difference is, he starts with questions for the reporters and opening up the questions to him. Hey, you guys got anything for me? Did they tell you why they're not taking questions? If you guys, we'll take any questions.
When he starts asking the reporters questions, I was like, wow, that was just awesome.
Those are things you would expect from a third-party candidate who's desperate for attention. J.D. Vance has no reason to be desperate for attention.
Well, unless he hit a bear with a car.
That'll get you some attention. Certainly got the bear's attention, didn't it?
Boy,
by the way,
Kennedy's all but disappeared, hasn't he?
I think
but disappeared.
And his demographics with bear voters went through the floor. They're gone. They were fully on board before that. Falcons, no. Bear were right behind RFK Jr. until this happened. And
falconing and hawking.
It was, and immediately yesterday I was like, oh, man, Andrew Breitbart is smiling on this one.
Yeah, when he walked over there, that was a very interesting moment. And I was thinking when I saw it, I didn't see it live. I saw it afterwards. When I saw it after,
me too.
I said, whoa, that just killed the whole normal weird thing.
Oh,
gone. I mean, that wasn't going to go further anyway, because you can't debate. You can't debate it. You can't sit there and say, well, Walz is normal.
Right.
Because of the things that he actually believes. And that's the point that's going to come out. The problem for Democrats is that the Republicans have been fully vetted.
Right. Yeah.
Trump has been fully vetted. I don't believe if there was more on Vance, they'd have it. Vance has been in there for weeks. They've used everything against him. They've got nothing on him.
Well, and that move yesterday goes so far because it also reinforces the media in their search and their curiosity as to why she, Kamala Harris, and Tim Walz are running from them.
Yeah.
He's running to you. J.D. Vance ran over to you. Whoa.
Not only will the Republican nominees take questions from you, they'll ask you questions. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I do go around in a state of awe, but it's the perverted sense of awe that I've always talked about. That you really can't believe, what's, the table that's been set for this election right now. It really is incredible. I mean, it's unprecedented. And one of the things that makes it unprecedented is you have one party that is wrong on all the issues, and that's the Democrats. And I'm talking about not my personal opinion. I'm talking about the polling, the recent polling that's been done, landslide numbers for the ticket that is actually losing at this point, if you are to believe the polls.
Right.
That in itself, and it's not the end. It's like James Carville said, well, they're coming for her. They're coming. Yeah, they will be. And the fact is she can't defend herself.
Right.
These are really unique situation. A unique situation we're in this election season. It really is.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. Another problem with being a liberal.
And another thing.
This may be my personal story of the day. Vice President Harris has found herself between a rock and a woke place when it comes to criminal justice. More than 160 criminal justice advocacy groups, these are all liberal groups now, right? Soft on crime, sent Harris an open letter urging her not to call former President Trump a criminal and a felon, while pressuring her to embrace their progressive agenda. You know where this is going. I can see the look in your face.
I didn't see this coming, though, but
the former San Francisco District Attorney and California State Attorney General has repeatedly cast herself as an aggressive prosecutor who knows Trump's type, a reference to his recent conviction in New York City. Quote, this came from the open letter from all of these liberal advocacy groups, that wish to be soft on crime or whatever. There will be those that simplify a matchup between you and former President Trump as one between a tough on crime prosecutor and a criminal. The letter states, we hope that you will resist this language and this framing. It is both harmful to us and harmful to your campaign.
Didn't see that coming.
The group praised Harris for backing criminal justice reform and cautioned her against using language that unfairly denigrates and stigmatizes those who have been convicted of crimes, including Trump.
Well, that's the problem. Again, you build all these brick walls if you're on the left, and you keep running into them. You built it. It's the and because I was thinking, along the lines of, well, if they ever got to the point of putting him in jail, would Kamala Harris help to bail him out? She's kind of been in that lane before, bailing criminals out of jail and prison reform. But I didn't see this coming. Hey! Convicted felons. Hey! What are you talking about? But, of course, it was going to be offensive to somebody, right? It always is.
Oh, my gosh.
Harmful to your
campaign. I didn't expect that one either.
I didn't see that one coming at all.
When I saw that earlier, I was
like, oh, wow, there's a new group.
Okay. The whole victim oppressor thing moves so quickly, you're just never sure where they're going to go next.
Yeah. No, I mean, somebody's going to have to occupy that space. I would say everybody at some point tries to occupy that space, but that isn't true.
Well,
but many people do.
Technically, am I correct here in stating these groups would actually view Trump as a victim? Not for the same reason that we view him as a victim of a rogue prosecutor and a rogue judge.
Right.
They're not following the law.
Right.
Because all of our arguments on that is based on what the actual law is. But do they view him as a victim? Has Trump actually been oppressed by a capitalist society, in their opinion, to do these things? So he is, in essence, a victim because criminals are victims.
Right.
By the way, this is not our stance. I want to make this clear.
We're using their logic.
Yes.
Yeah. Every once in a while we do that. Well, no, of course. It was his upbringing, all these years as a billionaire. I mean, that was bound to have this kind of effect.
Yeah.
It's so hard when you borrow their logic to finish a sentence. Oh, my gosh. Or imagine doing that every day.
Or you're in the middle of it. I could tell you're in the middle of that sentence and you started laughing. It's like, I can't complete the sentence.
Well, the BS word keeps echoing in my mind. It's like, I got to be careful here. Again, I didn't see that coming. But one more example of the left building those brick walls that they constantly run into, and they wonder why they run into them. I don't know why you would keep doing it, but when you don't focus on the truth, when you don't care about the truth, then of course you're going to build your own trap every time. You run into it every single time. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to run into that trap every single time. There's no way around it. It's the old tangled web thing. It's just the way it was going to go. It really does get down to how many people care about the truth and how many don't.
No, that's how many times have we said that over the years? The biggest problem in this country is not that politicians lie, but so many people have accepted politicians lying and have accepted lies if it further moves them closer to their narrative or their political goal.
Right. And
the vast majority of it comes from the left. I'm not saying none comes from the right, but the vast majority comes from the left's party, which is the Democratic Party.
Well,
you can find. I mean, I can go on. I can go on X right now and find what are viewed as right-wing conspiracy theorists throwing out lies.
Well, that's
left and right. But I'm talking about the actual political parties where they stand on the issues. The Democrats lie. I'm trying to think of an issue they don't have to lie on, because even abortion they have to lie on.
Yes, right.
So I don't know where you look at the Republicans, and the Republicans on the issues are very honest with where they stand on the actual issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's another thing to bring up. We'll play. I've been promising the Ramaswamy audio cut. We'll play it here at the top of the hour because I think it's something that they can also use when it comes to transparency, which we saw. They don't want to talk to you.
Right.
They don't want. They're lying about the issues. But the other thing is the whole normal weird thing, which Ramaswamy sort of took in as we have when he talked about Trump, saying Trump is a moderate.
Right.
There's nothing radical about Trump.
Right.
And he's on there, and you got the anchor, the CNN anchor, just listening. She's not saying anything because there's nothing you can say because they are. It's moderate.
Yeah.
You can sit there and promote all day, and we've been screaming at the surrogates of Trump over the last 6 months, over the last year.
Yep.
Talk about the fact that everything he believes is moderate.
Right.
It's not radical.
It's mainstream.
That the radicals, the radicals are the so-called, quote, normal people.
Exactly.
I said quote. I put normal in quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wears a baseball cap.
Yeah.
He's normal. He wears a baseball cap and jeans. He's folksy, and so therefore he's normal, even though he believes that young people should be able to make the decision to cut off their private parts, and he has no problem with sexually explicit material in the hands of 5, 6, and 7-year-olds without the parents' knowledge, and think that's fine and dandy.
Yeah.
Because we don't care how you dress.
Right.
That stopped for me when I was growing up in the mid to late 70s and even into the 80s, and used to go to what was called the CBGBs of Buffalo, which was the Continental.
Mm.
You learn not to care how people dressed.
Yeah.
You didn't judge them. You judged them by the content of their character and the substance, since we're in talk radio, or in politics, the arena of ideas, the substance of their argument, and the honesty of their arguments. That's not the case. The whole thing on Walz is he looks like he's normal, therefore he's normal.
He's folksy.
Right. He dresses as if he's normal, therefore he's normal. Well, where does he stand on the issues?
Right.
We don't go into that because he's normal. You don't need to go in where he stands on the issues. Well, no, actually, where he stands on the issues is what defines whether he's normal or not.
Well, to go to the extreme, the BTK killer seemed normal to his neighbors. I'm not accusing Tim Walz of being a murderer.
No, but you look at it, the number.
But it's the extreme is.
Well, how many times you hear about the criminal? He was so
nice guy.
He was so
quiet.
normal and he was so normal and quiet.
He was quiet and kept to himself.
What do you mean? You should have known because listen to the media.
Now
they're using his first, middle, and last name, so you should have known he was a serial killer.
And his middle name was Lee. There's a 90% chance he's going to be a serial killer. And look, he was quiet.
Gosh.
Now the people screaming from his house, they weren't quiet, but he was always quiet.
Man, I'm telling you,
because that gets back to the whole truth thing. You find out something about like people just invest heavily into celebrities. Oh, I love, and then something comes out and it's like, oh, I didn't know he did that or she did that. Like, whoa. And I understand you can say, hey, I like their work. Look, they're one of the world's greatest running backs until double murder.
Yeah.
And those, it's commonplace in pop culture for people to behave that way. It is imperative when we hire public servants to not give that kind of status to somebody based on, I don't know, how they look or what somebody else says about them. That we ask questions all along the way, and even if we vote for them, we keep asking questions, and we expect the truth out of them. Everybody says, there's two sides to every story. Nope, there's one side. It's the truth. And the truth is the truth no matter what you do with it. The lies from the left, this is why they keep building those walls that they run into themselves, is because those lies have to be carried by people who are willing to buy into it, not only believe the lie, but carry that lying torch on from their hand. A lie has to be supported by other liars in order to live. Mm-hmm. The truth can be buried. It's still the truth. It is now, right now.
Well, but that's
how much do we care about the truth?
But our complaint about Republicans is the truth on so many of the issues is on their side, and for some reason, they won't come together to our satisfaction. They may, but they haven't, to our satisfaction over the years, taken the obvious truth and thrown it back in their opponent's face.
Right.
Which gets to be frustrating when you do this for a living every day.
Right.
And also frustrating to our listeners.
Yeah.
But then the joy of, like, yesterday when you had Vance, J.D. Vance, answer perfectly an identity politics question. It was perfect. And then even our listeners were happy. They're like, all right. He's followed. Finally, they're arguing it correctly. But the point is, the Republicans have the chance because, remember, think about how the Democrats have changed in the last 3 weeks. People live in the bubble of today.
Right.
That's what you have to realize. Just keep throwing the truth out each and every day. And Ramaswamy, we'll play this after the top of the hour, as we talk in general terms where the campaign is right now, talks to the reporter and says, look, Trump is moderate on all these issues here. Goes through the issues. That's moderate. That's moderate. That's moderate.
That's why the tarmac approach was so great. Another reason by J.D. Vance. Does that look like somebody who's afraid to answer questions?
No.
If you've got the truth on your side and everything is working for you, you're not afraid.
You've got a campaign that won't answer any questions. You have a campaign that as of late yesterday, they still don't have any of the policies that they believe in.
Right.
On the Harris-Walz campaign site, Walz's name has been added. There's still no issues.
Right.
They won't tell you where they stand on the issues.
Right.
And even she won't, because she won't make a public statement on it. The campaign will, but we believe she may use that as plausible deniability later on. The New York Times gave us more information on where she stands on Israel.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd consider that she would consider, apparently, according to the New York Times, she's open to an embargo, arms embargo.
Yeah.
Wow. 866-98 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You actually brought up Red West from
College Boys,
from Black Sheep Squadron.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, I'm like, oh, wow, something when he sort of sounds like Waltz. J.D. Vance, Yale graduate.
Yeah.
College boy. I was like, I know, but it's on MeTV on Saturday afternoons.
I love it.
Or it's on one of them, Antenna TV or one.
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
Or Get TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
one of my dad's favorite shows too.
College boys.
Oh, you're college boys
with the cigar in his mouth, right?
The cigar was, that was like another hand for him. It was always present. It was great.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.